Welcome to Your Business Matters. The idea of this program grew out of a small group of like-minded business owners in the Boston Metro West area who have banded together as the Metro West Business Alliance to provide essential business boosting services.
We started out by meeting informally, and soon we discovered that we liked being able to help each other with advice in a no-holds-barred, face-to-face forum where we could exchange ideas, air concerns, and frankly, learn a lot about how each of us have overcome the challenges of doing business.
We realized that if there's value in this for us, then why not for others, like you?
Whether you've been in business for years or you're just starting out, we provide fresh perspectives to fellow business people who are interested in improving the bottom line, getting better results, or in simply having more fun doing business.
We welcome you to join our discussion with moderator Bruce Hassan of SBH Consulting. So come on in, join the conversation. We're dedicated to the idea that your business matters.
Hello, I'm Bruce Hassan and welcome to Your Business Matters. Today we're going to be talking with a couple of our Alliance members and getting to know what they do and how they get started in their respective businesses. So I'm pleased to introduce John Parella of Liscomb and Parella and Jim Macri of Superior Security Solutions. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you,
Thank you, Bruce.
So fellas, why don't we get started?
All right.
So why don't you share with our audience what exactly that you do, your business is all about, and how you actually get started. John, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm a CPA, and I own a business in Franklin called Liscomb and Parella CPAs. And we're a full-service accounting firm, and we've existed for 10 years. And how I got started was I started working for my father and my uncles in their business back when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And then I worked every vacation, every summer, and I really get involved in the business and wanted to know how the business worked. I wanted to know how the numbers worked behind the business, and that took me right into high school. I took an accounting course, and it just clicked, and I fell in love with accounting and decided that's what I wanted to major in college. And then came out of college and started working for a bank in the accounting field, and went into public accounting back in 1995, and I've been doing it ever since.
Great. What was your family business? What did they do?
They started out making candlepin bowling balls, which is popular here in the Northeast. And from that, they started to develop billiard balls, track balls for computers, bocce balls, and shift knobs for the motor vehicle industry.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting evolution.
Absolutely, they're still going strong today.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you bowl?
Oh, that's the last thing I wanted to see was going to a bowling alley. So.
10 hours a day working the family business.
Exactly.
The last thing I want to go is bowling.
Right.
It's kind of like being
That's
in
great.
chocolates and then not wanting to eat chocolates after that, right?
There you go.
Well, after the first 30 days. maybe.
You're right. Exactly.
So, Jim, tell us about your business and how you get started.
My business is Superior Security Solutions, and I specialize in loss prevention and asset protection through the use of video surveillance systems. And I got started, I had sold a restaurant. I was in the restaurant and bar business. I've been in a number of different businesses. And I moved up here to Massachusetts and fell in love with video surveillance. And combined that with knowing the restaurant and bar business and what those types of businesses face, along with multiple other businesses, facing the same things these days. And I have an accounting background, not quite as in-depth as CPA at all, but just basic bookkeeping and that knowledge. I knew I'd always be in business in some form or another.
Sure.
And never, way back when, envisioned myself being in the security and surveillance industry, but I've been doing that for quite some time now. And I formed Superior Security Solutions about 5 years ago, and haven't turned back since.
Well, great. It's good to hear. Now, you mentioned you relocated from where?
From New York.
Oh, okay.
I've been multiple places. I've been out to Las Vegas, lived out there for a while.
Wow. Started
a custom-made furniture and upholstering business, and not the business I fell in love with, but I was, and then back in New York, prior to going to Vegas, I was in the rigging and trucking business. So I've been in and out of manufacturing companies, So I know that type of industry as well, and the uses for video surveillance and loss prevention and productivity in those types of businesses, and along with industrial accidents, and that's where video surveillance helps
Sure.
in that aspect. So quite a cross.
Well, it sounds
cross,
So
experience.
video surveillance is more than just looking out for people trespassing or something.
Correct, or
as you describe it.
breaking and entering,
Right.
you know, armed robbery, anything along those lines. It's,
Sure.
you know, and that's less likely once you have cameras in play than more of what a business faces on a daily basis.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
so.
Gotcha, great. So you guys have been in business for a number of years. What, as a business owner, what do you appreciate the most about being a business owner? John?
I think, Bruce, I appreciate the flexibility that I have in my schedule. For many years, when I worked in the banking industry, I was an employee, and I had to check in by 8 and leave by 5, and I was at the mercy of their schedule. Whereas now, I can create my own schedule. More importantly, to cater it to my family's needs and to my clients' needs.
Right.
You know, I can work on a Saturday or at night if that's what the client needs.
Right.
So flexibility, I think, is the
Flexibility, independence.
independence.
all that. Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Jim, what do you appreciate most?
I've always enjoyed being my own boss,
Gotcha.
so to speak. And, you know, my destiny is created by what I do. And also, as John had mentioned, flexibility. Sometimes it's inflexible as far as, you know, getting calls where you have to, you know, service a client. But for the most part, you have that opportunity to create your own schedule and then work around that as well with your leisure time or with, if you have family. I do not currently have family, so it's a little different of a situation compared to.
Well, you still have work and life balance.
Correct,
things that you do,
correct.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, you can't work 24 hours a day, but as a business
Shouldn't.
owner, you're on, you know, basically it is a 24-hour day.
Sure. Well, that's a great segue into my next question.
Okay.
So what's a typical work week look like for you, as far as hours, days, week, just a typical average work week? What's it look like for you, John?
Well, for me, you know, I'm usually in the office by 8, and I work till about probably 6 o'clock. But, you know, again, it's all to the needs of my client,
Right.
and many times, especially during tax season, you know, I have to be available almost 24/7, and I'm in the office mostly all day on Saturdays and many times on Sundays,
No kidding.
and many
Evenings?
evening appointments
Oh,
as
wow.
well.
Sure.
And, you know, if I have to be in the office at 7 a.m., because that's the only time the client can meet me, that's
Sure.
the time I'm in the office. And I'm also, I can see a client at their place where they live or their place of work.
Oh, so you travel to the
Sure.
customer's place too?
Absolutely.
sometimes. Sure, wow,
Yep.
interesting. What, when you say tax season, what's that season? A month?
Generally, when the tax returns start rolling in, the individuals will start rolling in around the first week of February,
Okay,
and then that takes us right through April 15th.
gotcha.
So it's very compressed time of year for us, where you're under deadlines, not only April 15th, but also March 15th for calendar year businesses.
Businesses, gotcha. Okay. Jim, what's a typical work week look like for you?
It's, I would say, starting off early in the morning. I actually am a morning person, so as you start my work week off, you know, usually around 5 o'clock in the morning, and
Is that
prepare
getting
myself.
up, or
That's
actually-
getting up, and yeah, not being out of line, but
Just wanna
it
clarify.
depends, yes. But it depends on the nature of the what I'm looking at. A lot of clients, customers, you know, they're hectic throughout the day. They have their regular business that they're operating, and it might be more convenient or conducive for them to meet off hours. Say when they close. Say the business is a typical 9 to 5 business, or, you know, 8 to 6, something along those lines, and then to meet, you know, at 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then doing the actual work, that varies as well. There's some flexibility there. If it's a busy restaurant, you obviously don't want to be there at lunchtime nor dinner time.
Sure.
So there's flexibility in scheduling those times, and you know, being aware of that. So I take all of that into account. So And then you have the calls that come in when somebody's finished with their work day. Now they have some time to sit down and maybe go through something that may have happened during the course of that day or the week. And you know, I'd like to go through this, see what happened on such and such a day at such and such a time. Do you have a moment? You know, and that might be 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
You know, and but I would say a typical week is about 80 to 90 hours.
80 to 90 hours.
Correct.
Typical week.
For me.
I won't ask you what a not so typical week is.
What happens when you get busy?
Yes. But you know, in that, you know, the equipment, the nature of how everything is planned out and prepared to begin with, you know, I look to save myself time down the line. You know, so there's more involved in the beginning,
Sure.
which, you know, as you grow, the more you have to go back to. That means more downtime for
Sure.
yourself. So, you know, in servicing clients, you know, I look at that right from the beginning. You know, how best, you know, and the equipment, I select reliable equipment to utilize and install. So,
Sure.
very simple to use. And the other fact is, you know, business people, an owner of a restaurant, they have more things to do than sit there and learn something that might be complicated, that might need, you know, they might need a, you know, an IT or not an IT, but you know, a NASA scientist to operate. They wouldn't even consider
Right.
that. So
You just wanna make
I
sure
look
this
for
thing works,
simplicity.
right?
Simplicity,
Gotcha.
correct.
Keep
You
it
know,
simple.
can I log right into it, look at it, glance at it through my phone, those kind of things. So the technology is here these days.
So over the years, as business guys, what do you think has been your biggest challenge in your business? Something that you've had to overcome, or just anything significant? What do you think it's been over the years, John?
Well, I would say, you know, the first transition was when I went from employee to owner. You know, you have to make changes in your way of thinking. Now instead of working in the business, you have to start thinking about working on the business.
Gotcha.
You have to start worrying about, you know, payroll and making payroll and your clients and making sure things are getting done, make sure you're meeting deadlines. And then you have to keep up to date with all the new laws and regulations that are out there, and making sure that you and your staff are on update and everything, so your client gets serviced properly. So that's a challenge that we face all the time.
Sure.
And it's just maintaining relationships and, you know, making sure your clients are being serviced well, and continuing that
Right.
throughout each and every day.
Gotcha. So with the changing tax laws, codes, how much time do you devote to training and just personal
Well,
development, I guess?
That's a good question. You know, by state law, we have to, as CPAs, we have to have 80 hours of continued education credits every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
So that's our minimum.
Sure.
And we often put in more than that. And I'm always reading articles to keep up to date on
Right.
ever-changing tax laws. We know presently with the Obamacare that's we're
Right.
under now, there's tax provisions in that that I have to keep up to date with.
Right, sure.
So I'm always reading, get emails constantly from different resources that I read.
So you're never there. It's a continuous.
It's continuous,
evolution.
that's right. You always have to keep learning.
Gotcha. Jim, what's been your biggest challenge over the years
Well,
as a
similar-
business owner?
As a business owner, finding qualified personnel
Really?
and employees.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The nature of my business, you know, it's a technical business.
Sure.
The specialty in that takes some time to learn, to also, you know, communicate well with the people that you're doing work for, your customers. Then the other aspect to it, just as John was saying, it's continuously changing. So technology, as we see, changes faster and faster.
Right.
And keeping up with that, you know, that's a challenge in itself.
Right.
You know, finding a good supplier, that's one thing I have done. A number of suppliers that I've dealt with over the years, and one that is traveling overseas, going directly to manufacturers overseas, who's knowledgeable about the technology and can look to the future to see what's coming next, and being prepared for that and learning that aspect now.
Sure.
And then when it's, you know, feasible to start introducing it to customers and clients, that's the time to, that you're continuously learning.
Right.
And then in addition, you have, all the other technologies that get married into video surveillance these days, the phones. All of a sudden, the new iPhone comes out, then it's the iPhone 5. So
Sure.
you constant evolution in learning that as well.
Gotcha. So obviously been in business a number of years, had some challenges. Obviously there's a lot of effort to being a business owner in terms of hours and work weeks. If you had to do it all over again, would you do anything differently? Jim?
I would say, it's been a very good business, and I would say I would have liked to have gotten into this a long time ago.
Really?
I don't think it's, I think it's, something that I've seen with my background, with an accounting, going to school for accounting, working in manufacturing companies, not actually in them, but working to dismantle and move them around the country and the world, and seeing that aspect. So, and then of course being in the restaurant and bar business. So, that was, getting into this sooner would have been nice. But how
Sure.
can we all predict that?
Yeah.
Your path is led
Sure.
by certain turns of events or changes in ideas and thinking,
Right.
and seeing a different opportunity. And
Good.
Right.
So getting in it sooner than later. We got to do it all over again. John, how about you? Anything differently if you had to do it all over again?
I think I would have gone into public accounting earlier than I did. I mean, I went into accounting out of college
Right.
back in '85, but I went into private accounting as opposed to public. And I think that's what I do now is public, and I think it would have, if I had to do it over again, I would have gone into public right out of college,
Right.
as opposed to 10 years after college.
Right.
That's the one thing I would have done differently.
Okay. All right. Great. In today's business world, customers have many choices. And in my experience, they usually want instant coffee. I want it now, and it better be right.
Right.
So, what I'd like to ask you is, how do you keep your customers satisfied, meeting their expectations, and having them come back again and again? John, what do you do to satisfy customers?
The one factor that I stress to my staff is to service the client and service the client well. If you do a good job servicing the client and you solve their problem and you solve it efficiently and fast, then they're going to come back. They're going to refer other people to us. So, in my business, there's many other accounting firms in the region, and everybody has the choice of using any one of those accounting firms. I feel that my competitive advantage is service and providing fast turnaround on any questions and make sure we return phone calls in a timely manner and solve their issues right away.
Good, great. Jim, what do you do to meet customer expectations?
I would agree there. It's, service and, answering a phone call. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there where you place a phone call and might be 2 days, might be a week,
Right.
might not hear from somebody for a month.
Right.
So again, being on call, people do have, business owners have their regular schedule. I mean, most people aren't working from 11 at night till 4 in the morning, so,
Usually.
So
except
usually.
you.
For you.
Sorry. But that phone rings, and I think that is extremely important,
Gotcha.
and especially in a day and age where people do want instant coffee. If I reach out to you, are you going to be there? And reassuring that aspect that yes, it might not be exactly at the moment. I might be out doing something else. Business owners understand that.
Sure.
But, the response, the getting on the phone, when can you be here, those kind of questions, and following up on that is very critical.
That's a good point, Jim. I think today's day and age, if somebody calls you, you return that phone call in 2 days, that potential customer is probably gone elsewhere.
No question.
And they're worried, you're worried.
Right?
Right.
So it's, My best practice is to follow up
Yeah.
as soon as you can.
Well, I think it's the overall service. You know, it actually goes ahead of pricing sometimes.
Mhm.
You know, the customers are looking for that service, reliability, responsiveness. You know, I think that's a very good point. So let me ask you, as you were talking about your customers, what portion of your business today versus years ago is done based on referrals? Not necessarily a percentage, but a lot of your businesses referrals today, John, versus years ago? Are you going that way, or?
No doubt about it. My business and new clientele is definitely a referral-based business
Uh-huh.
as opposed to traditional advertising that might have been done
Mhm.
15, 20 years ago.
Right.
I found that if I do a good job for a customer, a client,
Mhm.
they're going to refer other businesses or individuals to me. You know, it's about trust, and if I can gain their
Sure.
trust and do a good job and
Mhm.
provide great service, they're going to refer me to their brothers, sisters, family, friends, and that's how I'm going to grow my business.
Yep, sure, good point. Jim, referrals?
Absolutely. I don't do any mass advertising, excuse me, and you know, I believe in building that long-term relationship and a working partnership with your customer,
Right.
client, and through that, they entrust you. You know, personality, they may not fully like your personality, you might not be a funny person, but you know, there's that building of trust,
Sure.
and now they have the confidence to, when somebody comes in, takes a look, provided you did a good job, hey, who did that? And that's how I've received all my business, I would say. There's, you know, you hand out business cards, you have a nice brochure, things of that nature. A lot of times that just, you know, like we all carry business cards. They get lost in the shuffle. You get stacks of business cards, but you remember somebody, you know, and I believe that is a much stronger beginning to a relationship as opposed to
Sure.
anybody picking up the phone and saying, hey, you know, I saw you in the yellow pages, I saw you, you know, on the internet, and we'd like to have you come out, you know.
It's not as likely as being referred from someone else.
Correct.
You know, going down through a list of names. You know, I think, you know, to your points, I think people want to do business today with people that are likable, knowledgeable, and above all else, trustworthy. I think it you know, speaks volumes. Well, let me ask you, do you, based on sticking with customers, do you have any success stories that over the years, I'm sure you have a number of them, but any significant success stories from a customer, from what you do in your business? John, anything to share with the audience?
Yeah, there's one that sticks out, Bruce. I had a client that was a referral from a longtime client, and they had some issues with taxes, prior year taxes that was owed, and they had not filed for 10 years. So they said, "Is there anything that you can do?" I said, "Well, let me take a look, and I'll call the IRS and see what we can do." And ended up consolidating their of what they owed and had them get them caught up filing-wise for those 10 years. And under my help, they ended up paying up their debt in less than 2 years.
Wow.
And they got caught up with the tax filings and all their tax payments. And you know, they're very happy getting caught up and could sleep at night now. And you know, it was nice. I got to
Sure,
gain their
okay.
trust and got some business out of them, referring me to some of their friends and family, and
Wow.
that's probably
So they hadn't filed in 10 years?
in 10 years.
Don't they put handcuffs on people?
If they get caught, if they get caught.
Okay. So you helped them in a number of ways.
Well, yeah.
I take it.
Exactly.
Jim, any significant customer success story?
There's quite a number of them,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Well, working 80 hours a week.
How can you
Well,
not, right?
you know, the systems I install, they're working also round the clock, and you know, so I might not hear of all the times when the system may have helped out, but a number of stories that I've heard, you know, and can attest to with customers. I'll bring up just one story that, and it's more along the lines of productivity.
Okay.
So, a business, everybody's working away. Somebody has their morning cup of coffee. They put it down. They walk around, now they start blaming, because they can't remember where they put their coffee. They start blaming everyone else that's in the shop. Where'd you hide my coffee? So we didn't touch your coffee. We didn't touch your coffee. So the owner notices and sees 4 or 5 guys who were supposed to be working, now not working. That's costly. So he goes to the video cameras, starts searching a little bit. He finds the cup of coffee. Finds the employee who owned the cup of coffee, put the coffee down. So he brings everybody over. He says, now, here's your coffee. Found it. He says, now, how much am I going to get paid for all the time that everybody's been not working for your cup of coffee? So.
Wow. So that speaks to productivity, I would say. Get the right person, right? Okay. Well, shifting gears a little bit, what advice would you give to someone who might be, considering going into business for themselves? Just sitting out on the sidelines, thinking about it. What advice would you give someone, Jim?
I would say be prepared
Okay.
for long hours. Enjoy and find something that you really want to sink your teeth into and you really enjoy doing. That's all the difference there. There's nothing, there's a lot of people in business, and one of the things, if you go into a business that you don't enjoy, it spreads throughout that entire business. And I would say that would be one of the key ingredients to that.
Sure. Good point. John, advice to someone who might be out there thinking about going into business?
I would say to them, if they're an employee and they're thinking of doing their dream and going off their own business, is be prepared. Don't think it's all roses going out there by yourself, and then you're going to make a ton of money right away. You're going to need to put in the sweat equity. You need to put in as Jim said, the long hours, and don't be afraid to rely on other professionals out there that know what you don't know, and don't be afraid to say that you don't know what to do in this particular situation or not. That's what professionals are out there for, and they're going to help you ease into that transition.
Yeah, because in my experience, there's a number of folks out there, and I'll ask you, is it a myth or is it a fact that going into business for yourself, you get to make a ton of money, have a lot of time off, and come and go as you please? So I guess what you're saying is it's a myth versus a fact. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah,
Well, why don't you answer it?
It's I would say a combination of both, wouldn't you think?
Yep.
You can, depending on the nature of the business you get into. I mean, you look at Google, you look at Microsoft. These are businesses, they started out in their garage. And, they just happen to hit it big, and so, there's that success story. But for most businesses, it's a good, long, but continual, and building that income takes time. And
Sure.
it's not every day on the golf course, as we know. And for most small businesses, that's the case. So when other individuals look at that, and just as John was saying, a lot of employees look at the owner. The owner, again, is working on either their taxes, buying product, researching. They might not be active physical business, but they're doing a lot of other necessities to run a business these days, And, again, if you don't see somebody, well, they must be off playing golf.
Right.
They must be
That's the
on the
perception.
yacht,
That's the common
So a lot of
perception.
times that
Yeah.
is the perception. But,
Like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
So
Correct.
if you put 110% into your business or to your venture, whatever that's going to be, you're generally going to do well.
Great. Well, let me ask you one closing question for a little different. What about the owner that has been in business for a while, finds themselves struggling, and really at a crossroads, not necessarily knowing what to do? Should I stay? Should I continue? Should I throw in the towel? So somebody out there that's struggling, John, what advice as a business owner
I
would
would
you give
say
them?
that happens to many. What you just said, Bruce, happens to many business owners because times change, the economy changes, technology changes. So my advice would be, don't be afraid to take advice from a third-party advisor. You know, to get in that third-party perspective can really shed some light on some knowledge that you don't know,
Right.
and it can help you get out of that rut to get you out of neutral, if you would, and move forward. So that would be my piece of advice.
Great. Jim?
Take a little time off.
But,
But,
you work 8 hours a week. How can you take?
you know, sometimes, you know, take a week off.
Right.
Settle back and reassess your situation.
Sure.
I agree with John on that too. You know, get an outside look at what you're doing and get a fresh perspective. You know, a lot of business owners do get burned out, and that you know that
Absolutely.
is always there and prevalent for a business owner is burnout. So taking that moment to reassess and revalue your situation, where you're at, what the future's bringing, and technology is a great way to, you know, get yourself prepared and rejuvenate recharge the batteries. You know, a lot of businesses, you know, a business cycle, you have 1 to 5 years, then 5 through 15, and then there's that time to bring you through the next generation, so to speak, where you really have to reinvent yourself almost.
Great.
at times.
Well, thanks, appreciate it. Great discussion. Well, that's all the time we have for today, and I would like to thank our guests, John Parella of Liscombe and Parella, and Jim Macri of Superior Security Solutions. And once again, I'm Bruce Hassan, your host, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Your Business Matters.